What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tony, and today we are going to be swapping out the rear springs. If you guys have been following my channel, I have a 2.5-inch metal cloak lift on my Jeep, but with running pretty heavy in the rear with a 37-inch tire and all the gear when I go camping and stuff like that, I really start to see the rear end sag. Right now it doesn't look too bad. I am on kind of a flat ground in my garage, and it doesn't look too bad. You can definitely tell that it is still kind of weighted because I do have my ice cold refrigerator, and I do have my slide out drawer, and I got my rack in the back. Actually, just take you guys off. So as you guys can see, it actually doesn't look too bad right now. You know, with it being kind of level, but I know when I start loading like my tent and my 2 boxes up top, and then with running the 37-inch tire and then my roto packs on the side, you can definitely start telling that. And also I also have, you know, my tire carrier, I got my slide out drawer, I got my ice cold refrigerator, and I got all my stuff up in here, so you can definitely tell when I am really fully loaded that the rear end kind of sags a little bit, and it's usually not that good. Hi, Belle. What are you doing, Belle? She wants to say hi. Hi. But anyway, you can definitely tell that it does start to sag a little bit. So like I said, I have a 2.5-inch lift from the front and the rear, but today we are going to be swapping out to the we are going to be swapping out for the 2.5-inch, but it is for a 4-door, not for a 2-door. But flip your own. But one thing is with the 2-door, let me focus on myself here. One thing with the 4-door, because it is a little heavier, it's only a 2.5. For a 2-door, it's going to put it at about a 3.5, give or take. So we will have a little rake on the Jeep, but it won't be too bad, especially once, you know, because most of my stuff just stays in the Jeep anyway, and it'll settle itself out and it'll be okay. So if you guys are running heavy stuff in the rear, like a heavy tire or anything like that, you are going to sag a little bit. So yeah, and it's not that these springs are any longer, they are just stiffer, which is going to be a little bit nice. So it's going to really help settle this thing down and not sag as much. So I'm kind of curious, and if I like it, maybe we'll go to a 4 and a 3.5-inch in the front just to help boost it up. But I really like the stance of it right now of just a 2.5, because I try to stay as low as possible and also have maximum ground clearance. And I think with the 37s, 38-inch tires, this is almost a perfect setup, and I think it's going to be really good. So let's go ahead and take off these tires and swap out some springs. Just kind of one little tip: if you guys have never used spring compressors, these things literally are like the greatest inventions ever. Let me get over here. Make sure you guys buy these ones that have this clamp on it. So there are some that just kind of don't have this top part on it. You're gonna, you know, just in case if it decides to try to slip, these will kind of save you, and it kind of locks in and it keeps everything nice and tight. But once you really get it on there, it ain't gonna go anywhere. You can literally almost throw this thing. So, you know, it just kind of locks it in. All we're doing is compressing the spring and just help pulling it out, and then basically replacing this spring with the other spring. So that's all I'm doing right here. So I mean, literally, you can just take off your tire and you can do everything right here. The hardest part one is actually the driver's side, because of that bracket being in the way. So that one's a little bit more finagling, but not a big deal. We can get it. So that is really the install. I mean, all it is really replaces the springs, which isn't that hard at all to do. It's just a little time consuming, but I literally probably had the passenger side done within 5 minutes. The other side probably, you know, maybe 15, just because of the that rear bracket. But you can't even tell that it's even a little up a little bit. So I'm sure it's because I have stuff in the back, like I said, but yeah, I'm very, very pleased with it. But you can definitely tell it's a little stiffer when I push down on it. It's definitely not budging, so that's good. And plus it needs to settle, so let's yeah, I would. So if you guys are planning on doing like a 2-door or even a 4-door and you're doing a lot of weight, go up one more spring in the rear versus the front, because it's just going to help level that out and be a little bit more stable. Not really stable, but it's definitely going to help it more of a, if you're planning on doing a lot of overlanding in your rig, not just like a 2-door but even like a 4-door, go up one more spring in the rear, especially if you guys are, you know, have a ton of weight in the rear, like the fridge and drawers and anything else. You guys kind of go down there so you're not kind of sagging in the rear. This is just going to help prevent it. So if you have a 2-inch or 2.5-inch in the front, do a 3.5 in the rear. If you have a 3.5, maybe do a 4 in the rear, just so it kind of still looks like it's even and it'll still look good. So yeah. So what is the benefits of doing this? Again, you're not going to be sagging, so when you're out flexing on the trails, ooh, my hair, you're not losing too much ground clearance in the rear end. You're actually really helping yourself, and it's going to keep it really like a 2.5-inch lift. You can't even really tell. I did get this idea from Mike from Metal Cloak. He did a kind of a walk around of his 2-door and thought that was a good idea, and it really made a lot of sense to me. So I would highly recommend it. Let's go take this out for a spin and let's just see how it drives. I'm sure you're not really gonna see a difference, so let's go for a spin. So we are currently driving the Jeep, seeing how it actually feels, and actually it could be more of an illusion versus actually feeling the big difference of it. And I definitely feel like it's really helping. I definitely feel like when I'm looking at my hood, it's a little bit more level. I do keep a couple 100 pounds in the rear with my rack, my fridge, my drawer system that I have, and the platform, and you know, just all my little camping gear that I always just keep inside the Jeep. So I definitely think it really is actually really helping. And there's a lot more other benefits to this. So if you guys are running a 2.5 and a 2.5, and you're kind of like me, and you're more squatting in the rear of the Jeep, and you're fully loaded, and you're kind of doing that, what I call a Carolina Creek thing, what they used to do with all the trucks that looks really retarded, you're actually gaining back your flex, because when you're kind of sagging downwards, you are actually really losing your up travel per se. So you're actually helping yourself to run a stiffer spring in the rear versus actually just keeping it 2.5. So, and I definitely think with running the 37s and possibly going up to the 38s or just keeping it 37s, you're going to be able to stiff your tire up in that wheel well a little bit better, and it's going to give you a little bit more flex. And so with that, it's going to give you a little bit more stabilization when you guys are really out there flexing around. So there is a lot more positive versus negatives actually running a taller or stiffer springs. I can't really say taller because they're literally the same exact size. It's just a little stiffer to make it really the 3.5, because this is actually, these springs in the rear are actually for a 4-door per se, but even on Metal Cloak's website it says 2.5 for a 4-door and a 3.5 for a 2-door. So I definitely think it really does actually benefit you guys from actually running the same, you know, width, or the same, or versus staying with a 2.5 and a 2.5. So you're gaining a lot more flexibility and strength in that rear end versus having it doing the squat when you're fully loaded. And it will work for the 2-door, obviously, and the 4-door.
But you can also do this for the Gladiator, and I think it's definitely helping. It's kind of like what we did with the ZR2. We put a add a leaf in to help compensate some of that weight, and it also gave me a little bit of a lift into it. But when I put my rooftop tent on and stuff, it really started sagging it down. Add the add a leaf, it brought it back up where it's more nice and level. So like I said, this is actually more benefit in the long run versus it is actually just keeping it both the same. There are some companies out there that really do a 2.5, but they really count it as their Overland lift. They'll put a stiffer spring in the rear to help compensate that weight. So keep that in mind when you guys are looking at a lift. You can just buy a lift straight out and then swap it over, but if you're like me that kind of didn't really buy metal cloaks, you know, all one package, I kind of wouldn't say really pieced it together, but everything's metal cloak. I kind of pieced it together for my own lift. I bought, you know, everything almost individually versus the springs, or in one big giant package, I mean. But again, my setup is going to be completely different than your setup, so just keep that in mind. Like when I'm fully loaded, I have 2 boxes up on top of the roof, and with my rooftop, or not with my tent. Then all my camping gear I usually bring, a fully loaded refrigerator, which we're going to talk about on the next video. You know, so I do actually carry a lot of stuff, and I don't have any, obviously I don't have any back seats in. I got my rack up top, and that carries like my power supply and just random, you know, camping gear that I usually bring. So keep that in mind. So like I said, I definitely think this is more of a help versus not helping. Excuse me. So yeah, I greatly appreciate every single one of you guys watching my videos and, you know, just supporting me through I guess my YouTube journey. Eventually I would love to get this full time, you know, so hopefully we can get that kind of going. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I greatly appreciate you guys. Every little bit helps. I don't really ask, you know, for you guys very much. I do have a merch page on there that I am going to start uploading a little bit more, so or more merch on there, so if you guys go check that out. And if you guys like something, or if you guys think I have a good idea of a kind of shirt you guys would like to have up on there, yeah, let me know. I greatly appreciate it. So I thank you guys for watching. Let's catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.